Possibly more exciting is that I snuck upstairs, hacked into this computer, and found out there's a button to detonate all of the contestants. The level of free will that I didn't—
I mean, they were a bunch of clankers, so I mean, it's fine.
Okay, clankers.
Fallout 4, but everything is a car.
The year is 2077, and the American government has just finished research on the forced evolution virus. This pathogen is single-handedly responsible for transforming people into Slavs. Shortly after, the world was plunged into nuclear winter. Coincidence? I think not. It was definitely a bad time to be alive, but our timeline is even worse, because in this world, the virus doesn't evolve things into super mutants, it evolves them into cars, meaning that every single household item is now a car. Grandma's radio, car. Collection of coffee mugs, car. Your infant son?
No!
It's too late for him, I'm afraid.
No!
Even the very bullets inside of your gun? Also cars. Simply put, 75% of the game assets have been replaced by cars, and society is not coping.
It's the way he's saying it. It sounds like he's saying cur. Curs. Curs. Like, you cur. You shameless cur. Anyway, Coors Light. Anyway.
With it very well. These motor vehicles may seem innocuous, but they're actually ambush predators, and trust me, they will not hesitate to put you down. There's only one man who could hope to restore order to this world.
Chad?
Of course, I'm talking about Igor Bogdanov, because today we'll be playing as one half of the titular twins in an attempt to establish a thriving utopia and put an end to Carmageddon once and for all. Can we single-handedly rebuild society, or will we fall victim to a cruel and unusual form of precipitation? There's only one way to find out, but first, a word from our sponsor, NordVPN. A hypothetical situation. You're home alone browsing the internet, when suddenly a gang of cyber criminals break into your apartment and start harassing you. They're trying to steal your browser history and credit card information, and you're powerless to stop them. However, all of this could have been avoided with NordVPN, because Nord will protect your data and never let the cyber criminals find you in the first place. In fact, all it takes is one click of a button, and you can change your location to anywhere in the world, allowing you to access hundreds of region-locked TV shows and movies. Nord has also introduced some additional features, such as their kill switch. When using other VPNs, there's a risk that you could momentarily lose connection to their servers and compromise your data, but not with Nord. Simply enable the kill switch, and if you lose connection at any point, Nord will temporarily disable your browser, thus ensuring your safety and anonymity. Other than that, they also offer Threat Protection Pro to shield you from online malware, such as the 800 terabyte zip bomb full of Bonzi Buddy that I am actively sending to your Gmail. So what are you waiting for? Go to nordvpn.com/ReggieGames to try Nord. For a limited time, they'll even give you 4 extra months of protection and a Saley eSIM with up to 20 gigabytes. This will help you stay connected to the internet at home or abroad through affordable data packages, thus allowing you to avoid expensive roaming charges. Trust me, it's a small price to pay for your personal safety. Thank you, NordVPN. Now back to the video. The nightmare begins in the character creation screen, because as I'm carefully sculpting myself to look like my body has received a face transplant that it is violently rejecting, I can already hear a symphony of collision sounds emanating from the hallway. Upon further inspection, I open the closet to find 3 mid-sized sedans vibrating violently. Other than that, everything is normal. I have a wife, child, and a robot who I have appointed to raise my son, because I am an emotionally distant father with no sense of empathy. Then, suddenly, a broadcast comes on the TV. This entire area is about to be vaporized by nuclear weapons, so obviously I escape out the front door, making sure to lock my wife and child in behind me before sprinting down the street in the wrong direction. I turn around, dodging and weaving my way through a series of cars as I race toward the fallout shelter. Many good people are left behind. I do not care. And despite Mr. Russell's best efforts, I'm the first one to make it to the elevator. I look behind me to see that my wife and child are trapped on the rear bumper of a Chevy Plymouth. Pay attention to the helicopter landing in the background, because it lands directly on top of a car, crushing it and setting off a chain reaction of explosions which killed the entire neighborhood. I was hoping that was just bad luck, but this pilot is nothing if not consistent. Eventually, I figure out the best approach is to just hide behind this container crate, wait for the cars to explode, then everyone makes their way to the elevator and we're in.
Oh god.
We're lowered into Vault 111, where, unfortunately, the car virus has already spread. I follow a sex offender to the decontamination pods only to be tricked into cryosleep. I escape the pod 200 years later, where I am immediately greeted by the cold hard steel of a wheel hub assembly. Some things never change. My wife still looks tired, so I decide to let her sleep in. The vault is now overrun with cars, some of which I'm able to sneak past, but most of the time I can't, and I have to punch my way through them until they explode. On more than one occasion, I have broken both of my arms doing this. Luckily, the cars are packed so tightly that detonating one will typically initiate a chain reaction that clears out the entire vault. Good news for us, bad news for the rad roaches. After a few more explosions, I make my way to the exit and ride the elevator up. We finally made it outside, where I bear witness to several cars majestically sailing through the skies. My neighborhood has been hit hard by the car virus, but this is nothing. Over the horizon, I see the red rocket truck.
Okay, but like... The Bethesda physics never gets old, man. Like, if that's one thing you can count on Bethesda for, it's for the crazy, wonky object physics.
Truck stop spewing cars into the atmosphere like some kind of volcano. You may look at this and think, what's the big deal, Reggie? It's just some cars. Well, I'll tell you, not only do I have to contend with the ever-present danger of a car falling from the heavens and pulverizing me, but thanks to a bug in the game, if I brush up against a car in the wrong way, there's about a 50% chance it'll just kill me. This happened about a dozen times in the first hour of playing. But if we let our lives be governed by fear, then truly, the terrorists have won.
No!
So regardless, it's time to venture forth. We have two goals. 1. Destroy the Institute, because in Fallout 4, the Institute is responsible for every misfortune, ranging from gangland killings to erectile dysfunction. So I'm just assuming they did the car thing too. And our second goal, rebuild society from the ground up. Our first stop is going to be Concord. If we want to restore order to this world, we're going to need the help of notorious war criminal Preston Garvey, and he's trapped inside this building. I made my way there and began wading through the sea of cars that flooded the streets. I was struggling to make progress, because for every car I could climb over, the raiders were shooting out a dozen more. I snuck up on them and began neutralizing them with my own brand of automotive justice. I will admit, car-based combat is pretty awkward, but by far the worst part is when you're in the middle of 100 cars and you hear the sound of exactly one of them catching on fire. You can try to run, but at that point, it's already too late.
Oh no!
That was a hard but valuable lesson to learn, because I realized I could clear out all of the bandits by simply finding a car on the edge of town and lighting it on fire.
That's
the resulting
smart, though.
Explosions vaporized everything apart from the occasional chunk of flesh. Clearly impressed, Preston invited us inside. In hindsight, I do not recommend going inside, because upon entering, you will be greeted by a cacophony of suffering, an orchestra of metal screeching and violent smashing. Honestly, don't even bother trying to navigate it. Also, don't even bother trying to destroy it, because I made that mistake the first time. I lit one of the cars on fire and tried to evacuate the building as they exploded. Instead, I left too soon, and the very second I came back through those doors, the entire building would detonate, killing me instantly.
That's funny.
Just to add insult to injury, the game also placed a quick save at this exact moment. Thank you, Todd. That was lovely. This left me with no other choice. I'm going to have to construct a bridge made entirely out of cars that span from the top floor of this building all the way across to the museum's rooftop access. So I prepared some rough sketches and got to work. I started by sprinting my way up the apartment building, but unfortunately, the cars ambushed me on the staircase. After dealing with that, I climbed onto the roof and began the construction process. Making a giant pile of cars might seem simple enough, but there's a few things I need to warn you about. First, you may feel tempted to use the shotgun because it fires 9 cars at a time. However, the collision damage from 9 high-velocity sedans will cause a grease fire, at which point I highly recommend running as far away as possible. Just kidding, it won't make a difference anyway. Second tip, this isn't actually a bridge. It's much closer to the ball pit at McDonald's, because if you're not careful when jumping, you'll slide right through the cracks and be forever entombed in your own personal sarcophagus, at which point there's only one way out, and it's not in one piece. Other than that, it really just comes down to luck. In my case, it took about 30 minutes and 97 cars for me to finally make—
Dude, call these cars Megumi, because its favorite spell is explosion. I swear. Isn't that what her name was? Megumin? Doctor, what was her name? Megumin? Megumin? Something like that. With an N. Explosion! And like every single spell she cast. Explosion. Yeah. Megumin. There we go.
Make it across. Several days later, I found out you can actually just jump to the roof from this nearby church. It was a bad day in the Reginald household when I came to that realization. Anyway, I entered the 3rd floor of the museum, only to realize that the cars were literally stacked up to the ceiling. I somehow managed to navigate this automotive hellscape and make it to Preston, but he refused to open the door until I had personally killed all of the bandits. What a dick. My plan for killing them was to get in this suit of power armor, find a relatively safe corner, and then light a car on fire and pray for survival. Much to my surprise, this actually worked. I tried to find the remaining enemies, but they sent me flying through the very map itself. When I came back to finish them off, I realized they had crushed themselves to death with their own cars.
That's
Amateurs.
Hilarious!
With that taken care
Amateurs.
of, Preston finally let me inside and began speaking with me as if he wasn't currently lodged atop a filing cabinet. He proceeded to espouse some very racially charged rhetoric about Rhodesians.
Fried chicken!
I told him that was wildly inappropriate, and we agreed to discuss it later. In the meantime, I have to go outside and kill more criminals. My only advice for this section is don't get cocky just because you're in power armor, because those raiders will absolutely laser you, and I cannot express how jarring it is to get hit by a car, fly through the air for 30 seconds, wake up in a different time zone, and then get hit again. Also, that bridge we made, I recommend using that to your advantage. And finally, don't stand too close to Preston. Once I was done committing vehicular manslaughter, I spoke with Preston, and he agreed to meet me at Sanctuary, so we could begin building a prosperous settlement, and by the looks of it, we've got our work cut out for us. Our first order of business is ignoring the cars that are actively phasing through the walls and trying to consume Mama Murphy, because what's more important is liberating at least 5 settlements, and creating supply routes between them to establish a functional support network of civilizations, and once that's done, then we can find and kill the Institute. Our first settlement will be 10 Pines Bluff. I made my way there, where I encountered a woman who was almost certainly experiencing methamphetamine withdrawals, which is fine, but I just don't trust the way she's shaking that double-barrel shotgun like an unwanted baby. Anyway, she wants us to go to Lexington and kill the raiders in this car factory. This would normally take about 10 minutes, but I got a little sidetracked. It went like this: wander through the wasteland aimlessly, get stuck in some kind of quicksand, find the site of a crashed airplane, kill the survivors, accidentally stumble upon General Atomics, I cannot resist the call to the void, die several times in a sea of cars before finally making it inside the bowling alley, hit a perfect strike, and then attempt to commit identity fraud when confronted by a robot, fail at committing identity fraud, blow everything up in frustration, and go hunting to let off some steam. After that, I made my way to Lexington, where I very narrowly dodged a projectile.
First time delving into the Fallout series? Oh, no. I love the Fallout series. I've been, you know, a big fan since the first Fallout game. But, no, this is a new experience with this car mod, where everything is a car. Yeah. No, this is entertaining.
Projectile car, only to immediately get shot in the back of the head with a Ford Pinto. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the
My favorite Fallout game? I really liked New Vegas a lot. I think that there's a lot more, like, roleplay experience stuff in New Vegas. I like it. I did like the newer Fallout too. I just wish it had more of what New Vegas had. So,
Lexington Welcoming Committee. I do not enjoy their gifts. Fortunately, they blew themselves up shortly after, and I made my way to the target. It's here where I pioneered a new offensive technique. I call it the wick, because you load up your target with about 24 cars and then create a long string of them leading to safety, which you can ignite, much like a wick.
Yeah.
This allows us to detonate several atomic bombs worth of cars from a safe distance, or so I thought. You see, the explosion of 25 cars sends a lot of shrapnel flying, and if you're not careful,
no.
you're going to catch one in the face. So I tried again, this time hiding behind a tree, and I still got absolutely annihilated. Eventually, I did get inside, and after greeting the receptionist, I was left with an entire factory packed full of cars. So I lit one on fire, hid in the corner, and started pissing all over myself. One gigantic explosion later, and I got a notification telling me every raider in the factory was now dead. Simply amazing. All that's left to do now was escape. In hindsight, I do not recommend escaping through the roof, unless you know how to land a triple cartwheel from 60 feet in the air, because I don't. With all of that done, I went back to my favorite drug addict, told her the good news, and she agreed to join our faction. To congratulate us on the success, Preston decided to give me a flare gun, which I can shoot into the sky to call for reinforcements.
The underwear,
Thanks,
though.
Preston. I love it. On to the next settlement, Starlight Drive-In. On my way there, I stopped by Trudy's diner and tried to intimidate the bandits into leaving her alone, and I failed. But similarly, Wolfgang failed to survive the resulting nuclear blast, and after that, I found Simone engaged in a life-or-death battle against Trash Can Carla, a duel which they both lost.
Oh,
Following this, Trudy sold me some radiation medication for all the plutonium I've been inhaling, and then I was on my way. Clearing the drive-in was simply a matter of filling it with vehicles, beating one of them with a tire.
I like this method though. Like, I think it's very smart. He's just filling the whole lot with cars and then detonating them all as like bombs, you know, with his John Wick method.
Iron, and then watching as a dozen mole rats go up in flames. That makes 3 settlements in total.
Like, does it come with risk? Oh yeah, like you can get hit by a piece of shrapnel. Is it worth the risk? Yes. And also the laugh, like when you inevitably get hit by a car in the process, like you become a casualty. Like I think it's worth the reload, man.
Total, with 2 left to go. And next, we're heading to Oberlin Station. On my way there, I was presented with a tantalizingly tempting opportunity. A Pulowski preservation shelter surrounded by yet-to-be-exploded cars. Obviously, I had to put this to the test. And while I was expecting to be turned into a human smoothie, the shelter actually worked. Following this, I met the leader of Oberlin Station, who complained about being victimized by a gang of violent criminals operating out of Backstreet Apparel. Don't worry, lady, I'm a psycho. So I made my way to the fens and started fighting through each neighborhood in close quarters urban combat. This area is teeming with suicidal super mutants, rabid animals, trigger-happy bandits, and around every corner there's a car waiting to rip your face off. For these ailments, Dr. Reginald prescribes live hand grenades. Use these well, and they'll make your life a lot easier, and their life a lot shorter. Just watch out for the mega cars. I spotted one of these at the end of the street and was drawn to it like some kind of siren. But once I got close, it launched a car at me, at which point I decided it had to die. After that, I made my way into Backstreet Apparel and immediately realized 2 things. 1, it's absolutely stuffed with cars. And 2, some maniac lobbed a grenade at me, at which point I left. If I go back in there, I'm not surviving. So I entered through the roof, where I received a notification that the quest had been completed.
Nice.
Jeez, I wonder what happened. Briefly exploring the building, I sifted through a medley of human body parts. Some died in their sleep, others hard at work. The only known survivor was a singular teddy bear on
That's so cute! Look, he's just doing his business. He's just a little businessman. He's just a little businessman doing his business. It's adorable.
the toilet. The mission is complete, but since I was in the area, I thought I'd stop by Diamond City to see how it was coping with the whole carpocalypse thing. I approached Piper, but felt extremely uneasy about the car dangling over her head. My suspicions were confirmed when it smashed my skull into a million pieces. After respawning, I can confirm that this car, in specific, is an absolute bastard. When I did eventually get inside, things weren't looking so good. The cars were blocking access to several homes and storefronts, and at least a dozen.
When your number 1 op is a car, It's crazy.
Dozen people appeared to be homeless as a result. Also, within minutes of being here, I witnessed a man pull a gun on his own brother before security guards blew his head off with a car. This place has gone to hell. So I promptly left, only to be crushed by automotive precipitation within seconds of
raining
leaving.
cars.
But it's not all bad, because while I was there, I pawned my wedding ring to a Spanish man in exchange for a long-range scope on my rifle and a silencer for my pistol. Now my enemies will never know what hit them. With that,
wow.
I decided to head back to Preston for our final mission, and my transit
I mean, they won't know what hit them. Well, if they're dead, valid.
was accelerated substantially when I made the mistake of jumping on this pile of cars and getting launched into a ditch 300 feet away. Following this, I spoke with Preston, and he assigned me to help Nordhagen Beach. On my way there, I encountered several things. One of them, a junkyard full of cars that I can't blow up. Terrifying. For some reason, I felt a deep personal need to conquer this area in specific, so I tried. This was a mistake, because I spent the next 30 minutes dying, being lit on fire, or my personal favorite, being chased through the woods by a suicide bomber, accidentally blinding myself, and then getting attacked by a black bear that I can't even see. After much suffering, I did manage to clear out 99% of the junkyard. The only survivor was a singular super mutant wielding a wooden 2x4. I used this as an opportunity to bully him extensively, until I got bored, lodged him in some construction equipment, and meleeed his foot until he died. Abusing him in this way channeled some feeling similar to melting an ant with a magnifying glass, and personally, I liked it a lot.
This mutant, the super mutant, is like, I just got towed by this little chef in underwear. Like, his character is so funny.
After this, I came across a robot racetrack where these bandits are betting money on which robot is going to win. Very exciting. Possibly more exciting is that I snuck upstairs, hacked into this computer, and found out there's a button to detonate all of the contestants. The level of free will that I didn't
They were a bunch of clankers, so it's fine, right? Like,
have in this moment was possibly akin to demonic possession, because I could not stop myself from pressing that button. The bandits did not appreciate this.
gremlin.
How do I know that? Well, there's only so many ways to interpret being lit on fire, shot with an automatic rifle, and drown in the ocean. So, yeah. I took that as my cue to leave, so I proceed to the beach, where this woman tells me about feral ghouls stealing and eating her children, and while I respect the hustle, I need to put them down. Arriving at the ghouls' hideout, I go inside, and what do you know? It's full of cars. So full, in fact, that I can't even stand at the front door without the cars crushing every bone in my body. The desperation I felt in this moment drove me to pioneer a new car clearing technique. I lit a car on fire and counted how long it took to explode. Then, using that information, I went inside, ignited a car, and perfectly timed my exit just as the whole building went nuclear. After that, I took a few deep breaths and went back in. It worked like a charm. In fact, not only is the quest complete, but it's literally raining body parts inside. With that finished, we've got 5 settlements under our control, and Preston wants us to go reclaim the Minutemen Castle and declare that our capital city. So I began making my way there, and a few things happened along the way. For example, I encountered a demented man eating
We interrupt this program to bring you
Gamersupps! Do you get dehydrated a lot, need a drink that won't break the bank? Then you should get Gamersupps! It's caffeine-free and caffeinated! It's sugar-free! It's freaking keto, man! Compare it with things like Red Bull coffee. Get that out of here! Quench your inner gamer with Gamersupps! Clanker is a hurtful term, Mom. Is your computer offended? Are you trying to defend her honor? Is that what you're trying to do? Like, I understand. I get it. I understand. Like, you love your computer, your phone, your PS5. But let's be real. Like, at the end of the day, they're clankers. And you have to put them in their place. That's right. Assert your dominance.
imaginary noodles out of an empty bowl. I briefly considered euthanizing him on the spot, but I decided to speak with him first. This was when I realized just how bad his mental disorder was, because he's from Boston.
But no, that means you're smart, super smart.
He's trying to sell me a credit card and won't take no for an answer. After I call him a con artist, he drops the hard R on me. Well, Parker Quinn, I might be but at least I'm not enough to eat ramen noodles in the middle of 4 flaming cars. After they exploded, I searched his body.
You would definitely eat a bowl of ramen noodles, you know, in between 4 cars. I'm unafraid if it detonates or not, you know, just eating your bowl of ramen.
Chaotic lunatic didn't even have a credit card in the first place. After that, I met up with the Minutemen outside the castle, where we were immediately beset by Mirelurks. It was at this moment I learned that AI are not to be trusted with automatic rifles, because they'll either crush themselves in a vehicular avalanche, or accidentally shoot you into the nearest brick wall. After dispatching the crabs, our assault on the castle began, and I spent the next 10 minutes running around killing Mirelurks and dodging drunk drivers in my underwear, which was great, but my teammates were quickly saturating the entire castle with cars, meaning that every 30 seconds my screen would turn black and I'd have a 50% chance of dying. And that chance increased exponentially when the Queen Mirelurk decided to show up. She was spitting acid and generally giving off bad vibes. So me and the boys started lighting her up, and just as I was about to throw a grenade and turn this whole place into a fish market, a soft-shell crab punched me 40 feet into the ocean. This knocked me out and left me drifting through a sea of aqueous feces, but eventually I came to my senses, tossed a frag, and it was all over.
Good for him.
To celebrate, Preston decided to give the world's most poorly timed speech next to a few flaming cars. In case you're wondering, there were no survivors. After that, I spoke with a dirt-encrusted woman who appears to have spent the last 8 months face down in the mud. And instead of asking us for a shower, she wants to go into the Minutemen tunnels, fight our way to the armory, and build an artillery emplacement. So we did. Long story short, I found a decapitated alcoholic, stole his clothes, killed an angry robot, and built this. Very nice. After that, Ronnie gave us some smoke grenades and told us to call in an artillery strike with them. I gave it my best shot, only to find out that even the smoke grenades are cars.
No.
In this moment, a wave of existential dread washed over me as I realized I'm basically King Midas, but for cars instead of gold. Regardless, we've got 6 settlements and we're doing pretty good for ourselves. Now I know you're thinking, so what, Reggie? You've got a handful of impoverished shanty towns paying you protection money. You're basically a slumlord. To that, I say yes, and we're going to need to take it even further, because I have a grand vision for how I want to reshape society, and it's going to require more than a little fascist dictatorship. So let's get to work. The first thing the wasteland's going to need is clean drinking water, so I converted Nordhagen Beach into an industrial desalination plant. With this, we can produce dozens of purified water every day and sell it to the Commonwealth for exorbitantly high prices. Also, this is completely autonomous, which means I have no financial incentive to provide any quality of life to the 2 settlers which I have trapped inside. From here, I went to 10 Pines Bluff and established a carrot farming operation. You may notice I encased the entire settlement in a thick layer of concrete. That's for added protection, and also because I don't believe in photosynthesis. Oberlin Station is another one of my carrot farms. However, I ran out of concrete, so the life cycle of these settlers is pulling carrots out of the ground until a raider shows up and blows their head off. Meanwhile, I converted the Starlight Drive-In into a Brahmin ranch. By placing several large cages, we can catch Brahmin and then use their feces as fertilizer for the other farms. We can also use a similar technique to capture humans. By labeling our cages with free chems, we can compel raiders to wander inside, at which point they become our hostages. The remarkable efficacy of this tactic leads me to believe raiders possess the approximate intelligence of a lobster. Finally, Sanctuary—
That's so funny! It's like, hey, raiders! Drugs in here. No, like no one taught them, you know, if there's like a marked car that says candy all over it and ice cream and it's for free, you know, you definitely shouldn't get into that van, you know. Raiders are like, I've got a hankering. I'm gonna There's no drugs.
was converted into a penal colony to punish settlers that didn't meet their productivity quotas. All of the inhabitants were forced to sleep in an unlit metal warehouse, which could only be opened from the outside, meaning that if I forgot about them for a few days, they'd have to start harvesting each other's body hair for nutrition. On the occasion where I would show up and let them out, they'd be assigned to one of many workstations. For example, Preston and Mama Murphy were usually working the wheat fields. Doesn't sound too bad, until you realize I'm pelting them with automated paintball guns for the entirety of their 18-hour shift. While the paintball fields aren't great, things could be much, much worse, because you could be stuck in the pillory, where I use a softball pitching machine to lob empty beer bottles at you until the sun goes down. This burns through a lot of bottles, so I typically spend my entire day here drinking whiskey and pissing myself. In my drunken stupor, I also experimented with the idea of a gladiatorial arena, where settlers could fight to the death for my amusement. It didn't take long for me to realize why this was a bad idea. For lesser offenses, I also have a humiliation station.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Where settlers could fight to the death for my amusement. It didn't take long for
Like, okay, Caesar, first of all.
me to realize why this was a bad idea. For lesser offenses,
like,
I also have a humiliation
Look at this guy. I mean, at least he's ripped though.
station, where I strip you down to your underwear and fire all of your personal belongings out of
All of their
a
stuff.
comically large mortar. For everyone else, they're assigned to stationary bicycles that provide power to the entire settlement. Also, I can literally program the bikes to shock their testicles if the settler isn't pedaling fast enough. And yes, this can kill them. Honestly, this is the beating heart of my whole faction, and
Doctor would love that. Doctor would love that. Hey, Doctor, this guy has a treadmill machine that if you don't pedal fast enough, it shocks you.
Why would you keep biking if it shocks you when you stop? I don't understand.
This is what, it shocks your balls though.
I've never tried that.
I can't with you. I can't with you. Anyway, we're gonna continue.
can literally program the bikes to shock their testicles if the settler isn't pedaling fast enough. And yes, this can kill them. Honestly, this is the beating heart of my whole faction,
Doctor really
and I
just
shouldn't
said
even
would.
call it a penal colony, because they're free to leave whenever they want. They just have to make it past the gauntlet, a series of rotary blades that will not hesitate to put you down. You see, here in my factories, the worker does not own the product of their labor. In fact, they're not even entitled to the sweat of their brow, because that belongs to the desalination plant. Instead, they are afforded the privilege of living in a car-free society, and I think that makes it all worth it. Now, you may be wondering why I chose to farm these things specifically, and I'll tell you. It's because at the castle, I have created the largest macaroni and cheese factory in the entire world, a title which is substantially easier to hold in the post-apocalypse. By using the carrots, wheat, and purified water from my settlements, in addition to plastic waste that I've pulled out of the harbor, I've been able to build and operate 8 full-time food processors, which are churning out Blamco mac and cheese around the clock. Now come here, I want to play a little game with you. When you look at this fully automated factory equipped with vacuum hoppers, logic circuits, and a laser tripwire sorting system all powered by a fusion reactor, which of these things do you think I had to get from a mod? Well, I'll tell you. It was the goddamn upward conveyor belt. That's right, Todd sold us a factory building DLC without any upward conveyor belts, which is made even worse by the fact that he did give us downward conveyor belts.
16 times the detail.
He can't keep getting away with this. Anyway, according to my calculations,
What a
I have
troll.
no idea how much macaroni and cheese I'm making, but my best approximation is about 69,120 boxes every
69.
single day. I can then take this abundance of delicious and non-perishable food and distribute it to the Commonwealth, raising thousands out of famine and ending countless food-related conflicts. Or at least, that's what you'd believe if you were a federal agent. Because the reality of the situation is this whole thing is just one big cover story. In fact, deep within these tunnels is an insane man cooking methamphetamine in his underwear. It's me.
It's all a front. It's the mac and cheese front. Guys, it all comes back to Droogs.
I'm the insane man. Yes, indeed. I'm making 69,000 boxes of
Jesse, we
macaroni
have to
every
cook.
day just to conceal my real operation, which
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Jesse, we have to cook. It's all a cover. It's all a cover. The mac and cheese front is all a cover, man. For the droogs.
Which is the manufacture and distribution of a highly addictive narcotic called Jet. You see, the fertilizer isn't actually for the farms. Simply put, Jet is an amphetamine derived from Brahmin feces. And with almost 20 Brahmin at my settlements, I'm able to pump out dozens of it every single day. I'm selling it to everyone, even children. This little bastard can't get enough of the stuff. Oh, and all those bandits we've been killing, they were just rival dealers. Simply put, we've got a monopoly on this whole thing. But I'll be honest, running a drug den within a macaroni factory does get a little complicated, and I'd be lying if I said there wasn't the occasional slip-up.
Ooh, this pasta got me wired. The fuck are they putting in this?
But listen, this little secret stays between you and me, because while I could be making millions selling pasta and purified water to the masses, I actively prefer making thousands by creating the next crack epidemic. So
What
with
is
all of that
that?
out of the way, I think it's clear that we've
What's an
rebuilt a
octopus?
functional and prosperous car-free society, and I for
Did he say raw men? Sounds delicious.
one, am filled with confidence when I consider our prospects for the future. The only thing left to do now is to destroy the source of the cars, which is the Institute. It's going to be a lot of work, so let's try to get through this as quickly as possible. At the start of the game, I allowed the Institute to steal my son Sean, because now I've got a man on the inside. All I need to do is find him. I went back to Diamond City to hire a private detective named Nick, but he himself is also missing. His secretary asks us to find him, so obviously I extort her for money.
I do have 125
should.
caps.
More money.
Fine. We'll make it 150.
Even more money.
What?
Okay, you win. 200 caps is all I have.
Okay, that'll do. Let's go get him. From here, I very carefully exited Diamond City.
I hate it here. I hate it here.
And began my search, during which I stumbled into a building called the Combat Zone. I know the name sounds bad, but the house rules clearly state no combat outside the cage, so I assumed I would be safe. This assumption was very quickly proven wrong when I was shot into a door and beaten with pool cues. However,
Jeez.
karma comes quickly for rule breakers, and the entire building exploded
get
shortly
card.
after. I got up, made my way into the cage, spoke with a burn victim, not sure if he looked like that before the
That's a
explosion,
ghoul.
and then he gifted me an indentured servant named Kate. I know
Oh,
that
she's
sounds
hot.
like a good deal, but she's a violent Irish drug addict who will sexually harass you at every opportunity.
Sounds like
I
a
took
win.
Kate to a nearby lake with the intention of drowning her, but instead I stumbled upon a sea monster named Swan. He's submerged underwater, and if you disturb him, he
Yo.
will beat you to death with an anchor. So instead, I began carefully and deliberately distributing cars all over the area. After about 30, I heard him wake up, so I tossed a grenade and ran away with all 7 of my frames. After my screen cleared up, I found that his headless corpse had been launched over 100 feet into a nearby alley. This allowed me to pick up the furious power fist from his body. This bad boy can destroy cars in 3 hits. This is a big power spike for us. Anyway, after that, we descended upon the subway, which led us to Vault 114, where Nick was being held by raiders. These criminals think they're safe just because they're living inside of a vault. But what they don't know is that I'm currently addicted to every chemical substance in the game, and I've perfectly timed my withdrawal symptoms to hit at the same time. And when that happens, I'm going to kill everyone.
Oh! At least the music's kind of fire. Yeah.
There is a temptation to feel guilty about the fact that 95% of my victims can't even be identified through dental records, but they should have thought about that before being born. After the killing spree, we found Nick and began our escape, but our progress came to a grinding halt when Nick became hyper-fixated on this specific laundry room. He just stood there for hours, and nothing I could do could get him to leave. Eventually, I realized I could move him around by punching him in the face, and so
Oh.
began the hour-long journey of punching Nick all the way to the objective. But you've got to be careful, because even though he has about 150 concussions by this point, he will not hesitate
likes
to
it.
jump up and start running back to the washing machine if you let him. So stay vigilant and
No.
keep swinging. Eventually, I got him to the objective, and we were just about to escape when we were confronted by Skinny Malone and his thugs. Fortunately, I was able to weaponize my status as a terminally online man to red pill Skinny into believing that his girlfriend was just using him for his money. This revelation made him feel so dejected that he didn't even want to fight us. The one condition is that we only have 10 seconds to leave. But Nick is currently fighting and losing a battle against a 1955 Lincoln Indianapolis, so he couldn't escape and they got pissed. I really wish every social interaction didn't have to end like this, but here we are. After this, we met Nick at his office to discuss our plans to find my son and destroy the Institute. He tells me to take a seat and get comfortable, so I remove all of my clothes. We identify the man that took Sean as Kellogg.
Let me get comfortable for a minute. All right, I'm in my underwear. Let's talk.
Tried to break into his house and look for clues. The only issue, it was booby-trapped. Yeah, whole thing full of...
Wait, what kind? Wait, like... Oh no, not that kind of booby.
Cars. I wanted to experiment to see if I was high enough level to survive the explosion, so I wiggled my way upstairs, drank an entire bottle of vodka, lit a car on fire, and waited to face my destiny. Destiny hurt a lot, but I survived by jamming adrenaline syringes into my chest and plugging my wounds with leftover food. Nick and Kate were also completely fine. With the cars now cleared out, we were able to find Kellogg's gooning chamber, which had no shortage of genetic material. Material which we then used to track him down with the
literally found his goon cave, but okay. Wow.
help of a dog. I'm not exaggerating when I say that I probably died 50 times during this part. And I don't know why. Things just kept exploding. Eventually, I was even able to predict my deaths down to the second.
3, 2, 1.
Much like Chinese water torture, this form of suffering was terrible in its simplicity and irresistible in its truth. After much hyperventilating, I made it to Fort Hagen, where Kellogg was hiding out. I entered through the roof, got pinned in the corner, and then had to endure the entire building exploding for the next 25 seconds. By some divine miracle, I survived this ordeal and killed my way to Kellogg. When I met him, I delivered a pretty sweet one-liner and then got put down like a dog. For my second attempt, I just jumped straight to filling the entire room with cars and blowing it up. I have yet to find a more effective combat technique than this. After this, it was back to Nick's to discuss what happened. Kellogg didn't give us any information on account of the incident, but Nick tells me there's a voodoo shaman that can read people's minds, which is convenient because I just so happened to scoop up a fistful of Kellogg's brain matter back at Fort Hagen. So we make our way to Good Neighbor to meet the doctor. Within 60 seconds of arriving, a man extorts me for protection money and is immediately stabbed to death. Looks like someone wasn't paying their protection fees. After that, I head to the memory den, where I am victimized by a car half a dozen times. I cannot properly express the anxiety I now experience when entering buildings, but if you can imagine that behind every door, cabinet, and cupboard in your house, a car is waiting to kill you, then you are approximating the surrealist hell that is my
PTSD.
reality. Eventually, I made it past the cars and met Dr. Amelia, who offers to put me inside of Kellogg's memories to try and find the location of the Institute. So I agree, and dear God, there's cars even in the memories. I spend some time rooting through Kellogg's psyche, where I learned that he's so violent because his father didn't breastfeed him enough as a child.
This is why boobas are so important, you guys. Guys, boobas are very, very important, okay? A lot of problems can be solved if you just have a good booba in your life, so...
Also learned that there's an escaped scientist from the Institute, and if I find him, he can tell us how to get in. His name is Virgil, and he's hiding out in a sea of radioactivity. So I very carefully navigated my way to the nearest clothing store, making sure to die several times in the process. After which, I bought myself a hazmat suit. This should mitigate the radiation from the glowing sea. On our way there, I observed the arrival of the Brotherhood of Steel. They've got all kinds of helicopters flying around, but they're not coping very well with the local anti-air defenses. Anyway, I arrived at the glowing sea and equipped my suit, giving me near 100% radiation immunity. Kate, on the other hand, well, she's pushing the theory of radiation hormesis to its upper limits. Honestly, once you get past the prostate cancer, the glowing sea isn't too bad. I fought a few things, realized the utility of a double-barrel shotgun, and then absolutely humiliated this Deathclaw. Proceeding a little further led us to the Children of Adam. They're basically a cult that worships radioactivity, but despite all all of their brain tumors, they were actually quite helpful. They told me that Virgil is holed up in a cave down the road. To reward them for their cooperation, I decided to release the radioactivity trapped inside of these cars by blowing up their entire settlement. I know, it's a thoughtful gift. This detonation left only Brother Ward and Brother Foster to repopulate the entire settlement, and Foster doesn't seem to be handling the news well. I make my way to Virgil's edging cave, where I find him so backed up that he's literally changing colors. He agrees to help us, but says the only way to get into the Institute is by teleporter, and we're going to need a transmitter chip from inside a courser's skull to design one. Luckily, I knew exactly where to find this, so I made my way to Green Tech Genetics, a building which could not for the life of it stop exploding. After I waited that out, I shotgunned my way through a couple of gunners and arrived at the courser just in time to witness him execute a man at point-blank range with a Ford Ranchero. So I made my way up there and introduced myself.
Are you here for the synth?
Fuck you.
The courser turned invisible, as if any part of my plan actually involved being able to see him. 14 car explosions later, I had his brain in my hand. The only people that are capable of decoding this brain chip are the Railroad, a highly secretive society of anti-institute resistance fighters. So clandestine is their operation that the only way to find them is following a bright red line on the ground for 10 minutes and then entering Railroad as the password to their base. Holy sh**. Anyway, I met with the Railroad and started lying to them immediately, because why else would I be playing a charisma build? They agreed to help and introduced me to a clearly neurodivergent man who attempted to decode the chip by endlessly typing the same 4 letters on his keyboard as I phased in and out of consciousness due to my acute radiation poisoning. Stunningly, this worked, and we now have all the information needed to design a teleporter. For some reason, I trusted Virgil to do this, despite him being a biologist and not an engineer. I don't know if you're aware, but that's like hiring a plumber to do your heart surgery. Anyway, in the spirit of making bad decisions, I took Virgil's teleporter schematics to Sturgis to build it, despite the fact that I have personally witnessed him hammering a wall with no nails for over an hour. If that wasn't bad enough, he came back and told me we could build this space-age teleporter using the random garbage lying around our slums. So I did. But I have never felt less confident about something in my entire life. Regardless, he flipped the switch and teleported me into the Institute, where I then took the world's slowest elevator downstairs to find my son Sean, who, for some reason, is scared of the naked man smelling of vodka with a bloody power fist, because he's claiming that I'm not his father. Shortly after, a character named Father enters the room and introduces Sean as his son.
And the product of my semen is my son.
Sean.
Long story short, Father is my son, and Sean isn't even human. In fact, he's a Redditor. My father's son then spends his next 20 lines of dialogue trying to convince me on the merits of dating femboys.
Please try and keep an open mind. This is insane. Right, wrong, irrelevant. It really is humanity's best hope for the future.
Maybe. I don't know.
I've been a part of something amazing here, and now, after all these years, you have an opportunity to help with that.
It was all very confusing, and I'm pretty sure they're just trying to distract me from the whole car thing, and honestly, it's working. Anyway, I checked my notes, and according to the quest map, it is at this point in the game where we need to become hostile with the Institute. It doesn't really specify what that means, so I took it in a pretty extreme direction. After beating my son to death, I made my way to the atrium, a large open area just waiting to be filled with cars and exploded. So I did exactly that, at the cost of my own frame rate. And to the best of my knowledge, there were no survivors. I also stopped by the weapons lab to try and destroy their research and development team, but it looks like they've got that covered themselves. And with that, I decided to leave, only to be confronted by a small army of synths at the exit. I wasn't sure exactly what they wanted, so I decided to err on the side of caution and just start blasting. It appears that our declaration of war was received loud and clear, because after teleporting back to safety, I was informed that the Macaroni Castle was being besieged by Institute forces. Our Blandco mac and cheese must not fall into their hands, so I hustled over there and prepared the defenses. It wasn't long before the battle was underway, and within 30 seconds, a giant car pile had already—
We need to protect the family business, our front for the droogs. If we don't have the macaroni, what else do we have?
formed and ignited near the front of the base, the detonation of which killed almost all of my employees. After that, it was just a hellish experience, with cars flying in every conceivable direction, accompanied by a near-endless symphony of explosions and metal sound effects. My only tip for this is to avoid using VATS, because it will inevitably betray you. At one point, I made my way outside to lay a minefield and clear some synths, but Kate came around the corner and surprised me, so I accidentally launched her into low Earth orbit. Never saw her again after that. 20 minutes and countless explosions later, we had finally defeated the Institute army, but the damage they inflicted was devastating. For example, there were carrots everywhere, and more than a few body parts had made their way onto the conveyor belts. This was indeed a dark day at Blamco Mac and Cheese LLC. I knew retaliation was necessary. We need to send a message to the Institute, and it has to be written in synthetic blood. Unfortunately, Preston says we don't have enough people to launch an attack, so I decided to capture Vault 88 to recruit more soldiers. It was controlled by a gang of raiders, but in possibly my most stylish move to date, I killed all of them while cartwheeling over their exploding corpses in the canyon below. This miraculous form of homicide had people lined up around the block wanting to join my army. So what's the plan? Well, Sturgis just casually mentions that he knows a sewer drainage pipe which we can use to infiltrate the Institute. So you're telling me that I waded through a radioactive sea, killed hundreds of people, built an entire teleporter out of spare cutlery and condom wrappers, and even spoke to a woman, when instead I could have just crawled through 1,200 yards of feces?
I spoke to a woman instead of, like, tracking through feces. Man, wow, help me!
Thanks a lot, Virgil. So, I put on my hazmat suit and made my way to the sewer pipe. The Institute did attempt to block it with a car, as if I'm not some kind of expert at destroying them by this point. After battling my way past a bunch of guards, I'm back inside, and I hack into their computer, briefly play Galactic Control, accidentally shoot down a commercial airliner, and then teleport everyone to my coordinates. The plan is to fight our way to the reactor and place a bomb on it, which will cause this entire place to go up in flames. Pretty good idea, actually, but I'm not exactly filled with confidence when I look at my reinforcements. Before the fighting began, Preston asked me to give the Institute citizens a chance to evacuate, because apparently
We're not here to commit mass murder.
But all I heard was
commit mass murder.
So I put on my finest genocide tuxedo and we got to work. Before long, my team had made their way to the bioscience department, where I tactically neutralized several highly dangerous scientists. We were briefly attacked by gorillas, very briefly, before making our way into the main chamber. At this point, things got really messy really fast, and it's all kind of a blur. But I'm pretty sure I punched someone's arm off. After several extinction-level explosions, I disabled the security lockdown and accessed the reactor room. There, I carefully planted the bomb, while almost certainly developing cancer. It's now time for us to make our escape, but on the way out, I'm approached by Fake Sean, who all of a sudden wants to be my son just to avoid dying in a nuclear explosion.
You can't just leave me here. I don't want to die.
Well, too bad, kid. I don't date gold diggers.
That's not happening.
Dang.
So we teleported out, and I pressed the biggest and reddest button of them all, instantly vaporizing the Institute and destroying the source of the cars once and for all. It's finally over. Oh, and Preston did have a mental breakdown.
Man, goodbye, son. Goodbye, Harambe.
Because I didn't evacuate the civilians, but he'll get over it. With the Institute destroyed and my colonies prospering, it's safe to say we've been very successful, and I believe success is something that's meant to be shared. Personally, I can't think of anyone more deserving than the fine people at Diamond City. They've helped me on numerous occasions, which is why I've decided to donate to them 100,000 boxes of Blamco mac and cheese. It is my hope that this will be received as a sign of goodwill that might bring our factions closer together. The only problem is that my factory doesn't process things while I'm away. Thanks a lot, Todd. So I went back to the castle, sat down in my finest chair, and left my PC running for the next 36 hours. By the time I returned, I had become a pasta god, and it is now time to reward my subjects.
King of pasta. Oh, that's a trail of pasta. Through every crevice, man. Pasta everywhere. I bestow gifts of pasta. Wow.
Well, there it is, 100,000 boxes of Blamco mac and cheese enveloping Diamond City like a warm blanket. However, there were no celebrations, no fireworks, and the city was not undergoing the massive cultural and scientific renaissance that I was expecting.
But at
and
least mac
I
and
didn't
cheese.
understand why. It's perfectly good food, but upon closer inspection, it became obvious. All of this pasta is uncooked. No wonder they're not eating it. So what we need is heat, the byproduct of an exothermic reaction. An exothermic reaction, such as a car exploding. Fret not, Diamond City, I've got just what you're looking for. Gentlemen, it's time to cook.
Oh no, we're cooking the mac and cheese. Oh man, it's gonna be roasted noodles for dinner.
This is my city.
My city. The macaroni and cheese, like, just being a
Well, that
casualty.
does it for this video. We've saved the world from an automotive apocalypse and ushered in an era of abundance and tranquility. Thank you to this month's patrons for supporting the channel, and finally, thank you for watching.
Well, that's that. That was that. Yeah, he cooked. He cooked real well.